I think I'd start by saying, as opposed to coming in here and talking about the things that we didn't do and how we fell short, I just expressed it to the football team. I think the classy thing to do is to compliment the Kansas City Chiefs. They got a really good football team. They got an explosive football team, and they did a good job tonight. There were some things that we didn't do, obviously, but I don't want to diminish what they did. I tip my cap to those guys. If we want to carve out a niche in this thing and push through the AFC, we got to deal with the likes of that bunch. Hey, you blink, I'll cut your eyelids off. Don't you blink. I got you. Let's go.
God has blessed me. We joke a lot, about the Browns and going there, but it was meant to be that I was going to wear black and gold. Draft day, I had a black suit on with a gold tie. I'm just so thankful. I hope that I'm able to pass the legacy of what it is to be a Steeler from Dan Rooney. Yeah, not just this year, but whenever you get a bunch of new guys, once you start to lose some of the old regime, if you will, you got to find ways to pass it down. And we've got some guys in there that will continue to do that. I gave Cam a big hug and told him it's on him now. It's his job to pass it down and to keep teaching and holding guys to the Pittsburgh standard.
And good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition here of the Mass Steel Podcast. With, of course, yours truly, Charles Prodigy Richey, and that is the 2021 season in the books right now. It is the Steelers 2021 yearbook version here of the Mass Steel Podcast. Of course, your host, clean shaven today, losing the playoff fan beard as of this morning. Now the Steelers are officially eliminated from the playoff tournament right now. As we look at it, Steelers, they go down to the Chiefs. 42-21 was the final score last night. Get blown out again. But I gotta say, the defense, I think this time started off, pretty close. Throughout this game. When all things considered, they had a good start right there. The first 5 drives in this game, everyone was pretty much punting right here. And then up until the big play, when we looked at it too, the fumble return for a touchdown, it wasn't until when we looked at the Chiefs had the possession for the third time. They made their first mistake and were Patrick Mahomes threw a pick to D. Robinson that was intercepted by Devin Bush right there, making a huge play. He's definitely been kind of called into question this season, especially with the knee injury and stuff, still recovering from last year with the Browns. Everything that he's had to go through, he's definitely taken a lot of heat, if you ask me. When you think about it, this guy right here, he has I think he's tried showing up yesterday. Granted, when we look at the final box score here in just a moment, when we look at a guy like Devin Bush, who wrapped up the night yesterday, playing in this game, he only had one total tackle. So honestly, his only shining moment was the interception right there. But of course, then when we also look at it too, throughout this game, like I mentioned, it wasn't for the Kansas City Chiefs in this contest. It wasn't until their 5th possession in this game at about under 11 minutes to go, where Cam Hayward forces a fumble, which was scooped up by T.J. Watt, returned for a 26-yard fumble recovery touchdown, which put the Steelers on the map 7-0. And we would also go see the horror show throughout the first half. Pretty much here as we looked at it. The Chiefs would rally off 21 straight points, go up 21-7 at the half, as they put up 302 yards of total offense versus Steelers 44. So 258 more yards than the Steelers did that entire first half. Was not the game plan we're seeing right there. At the end of the day, once again, for Mike Tomlin and his team, like I said, I'm going to give his team a pass for now for this season. I mean, they're going to be without Ben Roethlisberger, of course. We know that. But I mean, when you go back to 2017, I mean, for right now, I mean, they're on a 4-game lose streak under Mike Tomlin's career as a coach. He drops to a losing record in the playoffs. The first time since 2007, his rookie year, where he was 0-1, where he lost to the Jaguars. First time he's ever had a losing record in the playoffs in about practically 14 years, right here. And when we look at it too, I mean, like I said, you gotta go as far back as to the Patriots game, and where they got smoked in that one by 19 points, 36-17 was the final score in that one. Of course, to the Jacksonville Jaguars, 45-42. And then you look at it after that. I mean, then basically the Browns game where they got humiliated there, 48-37, and then last but not least, the Kansas City Chiefs 42-21. So nearly over 40 points a game, which has been alarming. But like I said, when we think about everything right here, you look at like one of the big losses that was felt on this team, a very strange, awkward moment here for a guy like Stephon Tuitt. Once again, he lost his brother in a hit-and-run accident who has passed away, and he's been dealing with a knee injury. I think that right there is a little bit of a murky relationship, cold shoulder. I have no idea. We have not heard from this guy all season. He was definitely a big presence that was missed, I felt like, on this the defensive line front right now. And you really wonder right now, I mean, when we look at it, I mean, for the Steelers, I mean, going into this right now, I mean, it's just definitely an alarming trend at the end of the day here. I mean, when we look at where they're at right now, and you got players on this team, I mean, Stephon Tuitt right now, I mean, he has got one more year left on his deal with 3 voidables coming up. So 2022 will be his last season. Going into the 2022 season, he's going to carry a cap hit of over $13.975 million for the team. So it's going to be really interesting to see what they do over here right now, because there's definitely be a lot of change right now coming up, as you can imagine. Steelers right now, as everyone's been wanting the last 2 seasons, as they kept pushing the needle with Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, a lot of people will be speaking and looking at this team that he stayed around much too longer than what he needed to stay. Listen, I hear that, but at the same time, too, when you had a guy who was still performing somewhat solid, I mean, especially when you take into effect, I mean, the first 10 games prior to that lackadaisical offense against the Ravens beginning on December 2nd of last year. I mean, the Steelers, for the most part, I mean, that's when the offense is really, as a whole, especially Ben Roethlisberger, I mean, you saw the wear and tear on his arm really start to catch up. Because when you look at Ben Roethlisberger, too, I mean, everything that he's done, I mean, he is definitely, no doubt, a legend for this franchise. I mean, arguably a top 10 quarterback in this league, which we'll get to a little bit later on. I mean, let's take a look at 2020, for example. I mean, at least 2020, that season, he threw for 3,803 yards. He throws for 3,870 yards. I mean, 3,740 yards this year with 22 touchdowns to 10 picks. I mean, which wasn't all that bad. I mean, definitely looked slow a lot of times this year. But, I mean, he set a record in one season with 7 game-winning drives. Most game-winning drives in his career for a single season. And a couple that, another record for Ben Roethlisberger, 6 fourth-quarter comebacks. I mean, think about that for a second. And that's, I mean, a lot goes to show you right there, too. I mean, it was because how watching this offense this year, to be quite frank, was like watching a turtle race this year. I mean, you really had to hold your breath. I mean, it was no joke watching how they could barely get across field or give you some encouraging first down conversions. I think the only thing that they did save face on is they did find an answer at the running back with Najee Harris. The only problem is going forward, you're definitely going to need to help this guy out. You don't want to keep pouring more of the load on this guy as his career goes on. I mean, but I will say this. I think Ben Roethlisberger really said the smartest thing earlier in the year when he encouraged Najee Harris to be bigger, be meaner, run over people. I mean, when he referenced to Jerome Bettis, I mean, that right there, I mean, he has phenomenal season, over 1,200 yards, I mean, rushing for this young man. But let's go back to Ben Roethlisberger for a second here. As I stated here, I mean, Ben Roethlisberger, like I said, he threw for 3,704 yards. I mean, 22 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. I mean, which is not bad for a touchdown interception ratio. The only problem was his yards per attempt. I mean, basically. I mean, it is the second lowest in basically the season over 2.5 years ago in 2019 in that first game and a half, the second game of the season, where he had to go for his elbow surgery. He was averaging 5.7 yards per attempt. Remember, that's around the time when the injuries with his throwing elbow caught up to him. And you look at how he was able to bounce back. Like I said, let's take a look at the 2020 season, for example, that first year where they devised a game plan for him to get the ball out quicker and to kind of utilize the West Coast offense a lot. I mean, you look at it right here. I mean, like starting off right here. I mean, in that game. I mean, basically of those games, his highest passing yards. I mean, in that amount was versus the Cincinnati Bengals, where he threw for 333 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, 0 picks. I mean, in 2020, he had 4 300-yard passing games. All those 4 300-yard pass games he threw that season came in a loss, and that was at the start of the losing streak right there. And where we saw the Steelers at that point, when lose 4 out of the remaining 5 games left in the season. I mean, they were very lucky to clinch AFC North Christmas weekend against the Indianapolis Colts. But then you saw what happened in the playoffs right there. At least in the playoffs last year, as ugly as a loss that was, being down 1-8 zip. The numbers for Ben Roethlisberger, I mean, in that game as time went along, still threw for 501 yards. The only problem was he did have 4 touchdowns. Those 4 picks to go along with that. Some huge, costly turnovers, especially starting off with the center, Marquise Pouncey, which is sad to see. That would prove to be his final game right there. And this is where we stand at right now. Ben Roethlisberger definitely pleaded his case to try and come back for another season. Wasn't all that too concerned about the money. He took a $5 million pay cut. And then you fast forward to, like I said, let's go over to 2021 right now. I mean, for this moment. 2021, where he started off here. Let's take a look at it. And that's this season right now. He only had 2 300-yard passing games as opposed to 4 last year, so that was cut in half. He had his highest passing yards this season was 318 yards in a loss to the Bengals, and where he threw for 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions right there. And basically heard one of the Bengals players accuse the Steelers of quitting right there, especially like that last pass by Ben, I think it was Najee Harris, where he dumped it off towards the side. And it was a manageable, I think, 4 for 3rd down conversion. I forget what it was, but still, I mean, you saw that game right there. He got taken down 4 times for 21 yards. I mean, the sacks did pile up for Ben this year. It wasn't a sweet day at the office. Don't forget, he was also one of many players too. Also had COVID this year, but still, I mean, he hasn't got sacked like this in a long time. Lastly, I mean, his highest sacks prior to this was 2013, where he got sacked 42 times that year, but he did throw for over 4,000 yards, 4,261 yards with 28 touchdowns to 14 picks. His career high and passing yards of his career, of course, be 2018, which I feel right there, that season right there, if we look back at Ben Roethlisberger's career right there, that season where he still had 2/3 of the Killer Bees and Ben Roethlisberger and Antonio Brown before he went off the bench. That right there, I mean, and you had a solid running game starting off with James Conner. James Conner was racking up some decent scrimmage yards right there. They were getting in the roll right there. They were 7-2-1, only to finish the season 2-4 the rest of the way. To fall out of the playoffs to 9-6-1. So you look at it right there. I mean, 2 straight seasons where they didn't make the playoffs, beginning with 2018 and 2019. But the last 2 seasons, I mean, especially last year, winning the AFC North crown. This year, all the red alert signs with this offensive line going to be as staggering as it was. It would be a brand new spanking offensive line this season right here. And we look at it right now, and this is where they're at right now. You're going to have to find a quarterback going into this off season. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to trade for anybody right now. Like I mentioned, I mean, the Steelers, I mean, when you look at the history with Kevin Colbert, I mean, to get players, I mean, for this team, I mean, he's traded up in the first round, I mean, just 3 times back in 2000. And of course, you had a few other years. I think it was 2003, 2006, and then, of course, 2019. But the only time he did trade up, well, not trade up, but he did trade for a player with first-round pick was only one time. That was for Mika Fitzpatrick. Let's remember, like I said, Ben Roethlisberger, speaking of the elephant in the room here, or the eventual GOAT, whatever you want to call it, remember, if that elbow surgery that is announced that he is scheduled to have, if he is not scheduled for elbow surgery, they're not acquiring Mika Fitzpatrick 2 years ago. That is being entertained in the offseason of 2020. I don't think they do it in the 2019 season when we look at it. So for right now, like I said, this team right now, they got some stuff they got to go back to the drawing board for right now, basically. And you really got to make some harsh decisions right now. And more importantly, Kevin Colbert, his status more than likely, we're hearing some reports by Adam Schefter and people going into this. A lot of people are anticipating him to step down after the draft, which is basically when his contract expires. A lot of people are really in doubt if he's going to be hanging around right now. He's been with the Steelers for over 21 years right now. Did a phenomenal job. I mean, when you think of the body of work right now, especially under Kevin Colbert's tenure right here, I mean, think about this. He's been to the playoffs 14 times, been to 3 Super Bowl appearances where they went 2-1. You could definitely say, I mean, for Kevin Colbert, which I expect just like Ben Roethlisberger to get a gold, I mean, be in Canton as a contributor, he's definitely going to get a gold jacket, in my opinion, for what he's did. He helped end a quarterback drought as far as a Super Bowl franchise winning quarterback in Ben Roethlisberger, which ended a 20-year drought. And that's where you look at it. I mean, Colbert right now, listen, a lot of people this year, when we're looking at it, probably were questioning how good was the talent on this team. I will say this. I mean, with this year's team right now, I do feel like right now, I mean, they had some nice practice squad signings and some people they got from other teams. I felt like who made significant differences here. You look at a guy like Hello Weatherspoon right now, having 3 interceptions for 45 yards returned. I thought he was huge the last few games right there. Remember, he had, like a pair of picks versus, I think it was the Chiefs and the Browns, but still. And then also another guy too. I mean, who I thought was doing pretty well. And honestly, I hope they resign this guy to a fairly decent contract. Because I tell you what, first round pick Terrell Edmonds right now, who does not have his first round option being picked up. He is scheduled to be right now going to this offseason right now as we take a look at it. We're going to look at the offseason trend before we wrap up with the playoffs. But right now, they're going to be having $41.8 million in cap space available for the Steelers. $2.5 million in dead money from edge rusher Melvin Ingram and backup rookie linebacker who they drafted this year, Quincy Roche. They are scheduled to have 13 unrestricted free agents. Of the names on this list and more eye-opening, pretty much the defense, I'm going to say 2 players they're going to be noticeably felt. Quarterback Joe Hayden right now, and quarterback, and strong safety Terrell Edmonds. Those would be 2 guys to watch right there. Because right now, when you go into this, Cam Hayward, according to Brooke Pryor, basically said he intends to try and get Tyson Alualu. He was instrumental in getting Tyson Alualu re-signed last year, said post-game he's going to work on Joe Hayden next. Said people don't understand what Joe Hayden brings day-to-day in practice and on the field. And I can't agree or disagree anymore. Joe Hayden is definitely truly one of the positive signs on this team. And when you really think about what they do right here, collectively, you see the energy that he brings. And Joe Hayden, he is definitely going to be a tough loss, if you ask me. His production wasn't all that great this year. He didn't have any interceptions at all with this team, which is a little bit of a disappointment. He did sign his last new deal back in 2019, where it was a new 3-year contract. You look at everything that he's been able to do with the Steelers, since being here. For right now, Joe Hayden, basically, let's look at it right quick. He's made a Pro Bowl once in his 5 seasons here with the Steelers. He's also, during his time with the Steelers, he's had about 10 interceptions. One of them was a pick 6 back in 2020. And just a pretty solid run right here. Another guy who's really, for being a former Brown, he definitely truly made himself felt as a true Steeler here. And it's going to really be, it's going to be a coin flip on that one. But I tell you what, they got the money right now. Listen, the first priorities I'm looking at right now, I want to try and see if we can look at some free agent signings. Possibly who's available as far as like offensive linemen right here. You're gonna have to see if you can find some linemen coming up right here to shore up. You need some pieces right here. Some big guys. Coming in here, and I'd be really interested to see how they make this work right now. For right now, the offensive line. Listen, I think you definitely got some big major questions right here. Especially when you look at the Steelers right now. A guy like B.J. Finney, he's one of those unrestricted free agents that's on that list. And, of course, you look at the offensive line with a guy like Kendrick Green. I'm not sure if he's going to be cut out as a center. Maybe this year he was just getting his hiccups. At the same time, too, with Ben's final year, looking back at this, how much was he forced on this? Instead of playing his natural position, which was at a guard. I don't know. But I will say this right now. Like I said, they're going to have money to spend right now. It's going to be really interesting to see what they do right now. See if they could spend it on some decent key players. I mean, like on the receiving core, especially right now. I mean, you look at a guy like Juju Smith-Schuster, who wants to have like a 4-year deal. I think, like according to Brooke Pryor. I mean, basically, it's gonna be interesting. He's saying like staying in Pittsburgh. He's a free agent this year. Says it would be nice to stay here for another 4 years. And Juju Smith-Schuster, I think he has to look into that. It depends who they bring in as quarterback. I have a feeling they're going to draft a quarterback. And just a reminder right now for the 2002 NFL draft order, the Steelers are going to be going into this draft right now, being eliminated in the wild card for their first overall pick in the first round. There'd be number 20. They're going to have 7 total picks. You're going to have a second round pick at number 52, third round at number 84, fourth round 135, fifth 176, and 2 7-round picks at number 222 and 238. Of course, those positions could still change for right now. But again, when we look at that, I mean, those projections right now for the Steelers, that's according to tankathon.com right there. Tankathon right there, where they're pretty much updating everybody right now. And for the teams that missed the playoffs going into this, for the people who honestly want to see this team tank or not get in, I mean, when you look at it, I mean, teams eliminated from the playoffs will have been picks between 1 and 18. And let's just say if the Steelers did lose out, let's say if they went to like 7, 9, and 1, they will probably have been at somewhere like around number 12, if you ask me, for that. I think they would have been ahead of the Vikings if they were lost out, which did that. But instead, they go 9, 7, and 1. They're number 20. Eagles got 3 first-round picks going into this year's draft, so they got a pretty good plan right now, what they want to do. But like I said, too, I mean, you look at a guy like Kenny Pickett, he's projected to be at least like a top 16 pick in this year's draft. That's been the biggest talk for even during the season right now. The only question we have is his hand size. But when you look at a guy like Kenny Pickett, I mean, who plays in Heinz Field, played for the Pitt Panthers right now. And, I mean, if he's still happening to flow around there, it is very reasonable for the Steelers to trade back minimal 5, no more than 10 spots. Number 20 is not that bad. You have to do it because you know what? I just don't see them. And I agree with 110% with Ed Bouchette of The Athletic. There's no chance in hell they're going to get Aaron Rodgers. Let's just forget that right now. For fans who want to keep wondering that, that's fine. But I just do not see that happening. Russell Wilson, maybe Jimmy Garoppolo. I have no idea. But I think you have to start with someone young right now. No Derek Carr's questions, futures, and doubt with the Raiders. I think he's another version of Kirk Cousins, like his heart. But as far as like big-time games, I mean, listen, he's pretty much had a pretty couple of decent runs late in the season, 4-game winning streak to end right there. Huge wins, like say on the road versus the Browns, versus the Colts, and then of course versus the Chargers, kicked the game-winning field goal as time expired to ensure that the game did not end a tie, which put the Steelers in the final playoff spot for the AFC. You look at Kenny Pickett's by work right here. His career high in passing was this past year, 4,319 yards. He was a Heisman candidate, but he did not win it. But he still had, I mean, for that year, 42 touchdowns, 7 interceptions for that year. And his touchdowns higher than that, he had 13 for back-to-back seasons from 2019 to 2020. And then his third most touchdowns was 12 back in 2018. So, I mean, that was his lowest as a starter right there. But Kenny Pickett, let's wait and see right now. I mean, this is guy right here. We'll see. I mean, 6'3", still a decent size. Let's see if they can make it happen right there. But anyway, let's go ahead and recap this game in the playoffs right here. Steelers get robbed once again by the Chiefs by 21 points. Like I said, the biggest turning point, which woke the Chiefs up, clearly looking back at in everyone's eyes, when Cam Hayward forced a fumble, which TJ Watt scoop fumble returned for a touchdown. It was 7-zip at that point. Chiefs would go on a 21-zip run, 21 unanswered points. It'd be 21-7 at the end of the half, 302 yards of 44 total yards of offense for the Steelers, which was not good. You kind of felt the game starting to slip away once they went by that 2-touchdown score right there, where you kind of knew it was, the gunshot wounds were getting in them. Basically, Ben Roethlisberger at the end of the day, he would finish his career third on the NFL playoff passing yards list, which was known by many. I want to say Brian Diarlo of CBS was one of them. Throwing for 5,972 yards, he passes Pro Football Hall of Fame quarterbacks Joe Montana and Brett Favre on that list. He also finishes his career right now, presumably, assuming that he will go on and retire as expected. It still stands. He'll be tied for third on game-winning drives with 53, which is tied with Drew Brees, and third and fourth quarter comebacks for 41, eighth in touchdowns with 418, and fifth on the career wins list right now. When you sum up his career right now, he has a career win total, regular season and playoffs, of 178 wins, 91 losses, and a tie. 661 win percent. Congratulations to him, 6-time Pro Bowler, 2-time Super Bowl champion. But still, it was a phenomenal career to watch. And for Ben Roethlisberger, what he's meant to this team, the durability. When you think about how he just started off his career right here, everything that he's did, to this point, it's just been phenomenal to watch. It's just been a beautiful work of art for this guy. You look at the amount of sacks he's took, under guys when he was playing with Ken Wisenhunt and Bruce Arians right here. He had about, between those two combined here for his career, he had about, 312 sacks in his career. And then you had under guys like Todd Haley, who came in, try to help keep some of those hits lessened right there. He would get sacked for a total to finish up his career for 554 sacks, so 244 more. So kind of kept that down quite a bit. I definitely do feel like right now, when Ben Roethlisberger was still in the peak of his career, was probably, you could say, since 2015 through 2020, the first 10 games right there. Just keeping him clean right there. You saw, like I said, the first half of his career obviously was where he was on the run Ben. Run and gun, have fun, extend plays, shake off defenders. But then once he got banged up against the Browns in 2011, 10 years ago, that right there, they had to make a harsh decision, had to move on from Bruce Arians, bring a guy like Todd Haley to reel this guy in. I think pretty much saved his career right there. And you look at right here, how it finishes up is, like I said, he's got nothing to be ashamed of right here. And once again, I'm going to go, like I said, I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, top 5 Steelers of all time, Mean Joe Green. Ben Roethlisberger will be at Big Ben Roethlisberger, the number 2 greatest Steeler of all time, followed by Franco Harris because of the immaculate reception. 4th, Jack Splat, Lambert, and then number 5, last but not least, Troy Polamalu, and that's what you got. As far as being a top 10 quarterback, I'd have to say sure. And the reason why I give him a top 10 quarterback of all time because of the amount of wins, the career wins he's got the numbers, got the passing yards. Yeah, he doesn't got Super Bowl MVPs. He doesn't got league MVPs. But I mean, everything that he's contributed to it, and yes, you can make the argument that he was the beneficiary of a pass protecting the quarterback league, but he still had to earn a lot of those yards. I mean, for at least, the first 7 years of his career, he still had to gut that out. I mean, even in those first 7 years of his career, he was still averaging probably around over 3,500 yards a pass, if I were to guess, looking at the numbers. But again, I mean, if anyone wants to think of one of his famous playoff wins, it had to arguably be Super Bowl 43. Many thought he should have gotten Super Bowl MVP instead went to San Antonio Holmes. So there you have it right there. That's going to do it for this edition here of the Man of Steel podcast right now. I do feel like it is time for new coaching assistants, possibly. The only guy who I would spare under Tomlin's coach staff is probably Danny Smith. Danny Smith is a guy who I like as far as energy right there. Made some big plays, throughout the year. He doesn't go anywhere, in my opinion. He stays on. But Matt Canady really got to do some take a hard look at. In fairness to him, I still feel like he didn't have the proper piece to work with. That is fair to say. He had some unique concepts, but in the end, too, look at his body language and the way he's trying to communicate things, doing things from the booth. It's a huge question mark, and I'm not sure if you want to do that with a new quarterback or a young quarterback. I am not so sure, especially when you got a proper offensive line, just a proper piece to work with. Keith Butler, I really do believe the game is passing by. At some point, you're going to see this guy probably get forced out, kind of like how Dick LeBeau did. I know it's Mike Tomlin's guys were here, but at the end of the day, those are some decisions that need to be made. Once again, you guys can follow me on Twitter at ManSteelCGR and on Instagram at ManSteelNation. Great wild card weekend of action right now. Speaking right now, we got AFC matchups setting up next weekend. Tennessee Titans. For right now, they're going to be hosting the Cincinnati Bengals, and then you're going to be having the Buffalo Bills go to Kansas City to take on the Buffalo Bills in a AFC Championship rematch for the time being. That's set for the AFC. The Bengals and Titans game is be on Saturday, while the Bills Chiefs game will be the final game of the weekend. That'll be on Sunday at 5:30 right there. And then the 49ers, too. Big time win right now, playing some hot defense. Stunning the Cowboys in Dallas, 23-17. They'll be taking on the Packers right now. Some interesting injuries going on right there with Bosa. I think Garoppolo is one name that popped up on their Am Schefter. And right now, weighing the final game, some Monday Night Football playoff action going on right now as we speak with the LA Rams right now and total command right now, 28-8 with under 2 minutes go in the third quarter. They have been routing the Cardinals so far, making a frustrating night at the office right now. So if the Rams do go on to win this game, they'll be going to travel to take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where either one of these teams will face Tom Brady and the Buccaneers in Tampa. So anyway, that's going to do it for tonight. First ever Monday Night Football game on ESPN for a Monday night playoff edition. There was a Monday night playoff game before, but wasn't on ABC or ESPN. It was on CBS. It was one of the original Mud Bowl games between the Minnesota Vikings and, speaking of which, the LA Rams, the last team that played a night game on the Monday night. That was on CBS. Vince Scully and Hawkins was the other guy who was calling the game right there. Vikings won that game. We'll go on to take on the Cowboys in the NFC Championship game that year. So let's see what happens right there. I'm going to give you my picks right now for the divisional round. I would have to possibly go, I think the Chiefs right now. As much as I want to see the Bills win that game, I think the Chiefs are mean business right now. This team looks like it's poised to get back to the Super Bowl. They're playing with some good defense right now. Uh, I'm not sure if the Bills are going to get past them. I think they'll have to wait another year or two to make their chance to run. Josh Allen's had a phenomenal year. Did not see the wipeout of the Patriots coming like they did on Saturday, 47-17 in that game. But give me the Titans over the Bengals, of course. And then you're also going to be having, like I said, the 49ers and the Packers. Give me the Packers right now, just based on the injuries, what we're hearing from the 49ers. The 49ers can make it a ball game if they got their pieces healthy. But they hardly ever do good cold weather. But again, they beat them in Lambeau Field in 2013 season, beginning in 2014 in the playoffs of the wild card round, and where the Packers finished off 8-7-1 to clinch the AFC North and get their only ticket in the playoffs right there. And like I said, I'm getting the Rams for tonight. If it's Rams and Bucks, I'm calling for an upset in that one. Give me the Rams in the NFC Championship game. You'll see the Rams Packers in the NFC Championship game in Lambeau Field. And then I'm going to say for the AFC Championship game, give me the Chiefs visiting the Tennessee Titans right there. Scene of the crime where the Titans beat the Chiefs earlier this season and where they frustrated Mahomes right there, roughed him up right there, and where the Titans got the number 1 seed. So there you have it. Thank you for tuning in this edition of the MSDL podcast. We will keep some podcast route. It's going to just be patient with me. I'll definitely do my best to keep you guys posted throughout this off season. We'll start getting in about a couple of weeks, about middle of February, start looking at some combines, some prospects. We'll keep more here, and if I hear some more news, we'll hear some more podcasts. We'll just keep it for once a week right now. We're the most notably aim for Mondays or Wednesdays. I'll tweet what I'm going on or share it on Instagram. But anyway, again, you guys can follow me on Twitter at MassSteelCGR and on Instagram at MassSteelNation. I leave you. Don't be trolling. You're rolling. Here we go, serials. Here we go. I gone. And thank you, Big Ben. Great career. Cannot wait to see you in Canton. Peace out, guys. Happy Martin Luther King holiday too. I have a dream. Dreams are meant to come true as long as we put the effort in. Take care, guys, and stay safe.